In our business impact demonstration, we'll show you how our solution provides the intelligent root cause and impact analysis necessary to deliver accurate, automated business impact analytics. We think our combination of real-time root cause and impact analysis, coupled with unprecedented infrastructure visibility in a cloud-based model that is both easy to acquire and easy to consume, is the perfect service assurance solution for the new hybrid cloud era. In this particular tutorial, we'll show you how to create a business topology using our business objects. It's a very simple process. One of the ways that I define my business objects is I can simply use the internal or external website resources from that particular organization. So for example, here we have a bank, a regional bank, that provides a variety of services around banking, investments, insurance, and then planning and advice. So these are different service offerings from this business, and these service offerings are aligned along lines of business: banking, investments, and insurance. So we can use these monikers, these categories and designations, as the business constructs to create our business objects in Business Impact Manager. So what we'll do is we'll make objects that reflect these services as well as these lines of businesses. And in each one of these services, say checking for example, there's going to be a set of activities in order to bring on a new customer, to handle a customer's account, to take a variety of actions in terms of servicing customers' checking accounts. And so those services or business processes can be defined in our application as well and linked to the underlying infrastructure elements that are subtending those particular services. So if we go back to our categories here in terms of business banking, we'll create objects named a checking service offering, credit card service offerings, treasury management, loans and financing, and international banking as well. So we'll create service offerings for these so that we'll be able to tie underlying infrastructure elements that support these service offerings to these business objects, such that when a problem occurs in the underlying infrastructure that impacts or potentially impacts or puts at risk one of these service offerings, that not only will the IT administrators and the IT team be alerted to the potential business impact, but they can also provide this risk analysis and business impact analysis to executives or business leaders so that they can take effective action to mitigate those business risks. Welcome to the second half of our business impact tutorial. In this segment, we'll demonstrate how you can gather high-level information about a business in order to create the automated business impact logic available in the AI4Cloud solution. Here we see a department, the loan department, and the loan department subscribes to the service offering mortgage loans. Mortgage loans is composed of or consists of several different business processes. There's the loan application process itself, and that serves a background check, which then serves a credit check, which then serves the approval process, which finally serves ultimately customer billing. So it's just a simple example, one I made up, just to give you an idea of how a business process works to support a service offering. Once the business topology is constructed, if we look at, for example, the business process of background check, if we expand this particular element, we can see that it's tied to a web server redundancy group. So it's a set of redundant servers represented by this redundancy group icon. If I expand that, you can see this is composed of two HTTP services. In this case, it's just two HTTP servers I tied together into a redundancy group. You can do this via custom work, or if you have a load balancer or clusters, Windows clusters, Veritas clusters, ESX clusters, the solution automatically understands that redundancy and fault tolerance. So you can simply tie that business object directly to the cluster. But in our case, I've tied it to our redundancy group of these two web servers, so that if one web server failed, it would show an at-risk condition to the application as well as the business process and all business processes that are supported by that particular function, and ultimately would show impact to the service offering mortgage loans, which would also alert the loan department that they may have a risk or a condition that they need to take action against. So back to the question of how to create and tie a company's infrastructure to the business. Our solution provides a set of objects that represent broad categories of business elements. So for example, we have the business process we talked about. We have the concept of a service offering that we talked about. We also have service subscribers, organizations, lines of business, departments, and of course the end customer, as well as a business unit. So these broad categories of business objects can be used to represent the business functions of a business and tie that to the underlying infrastructure. We provide this functionality via an easy-to-use drag and drop topology builder, where we can easily add elements to the map. Say, let's just take a organization, let's say, and call it accounting. And now we've added the organization object of accounting to the business impact topology. The first thing we want to do is find a resource to help us understand at a high level the various business services important to the organization. I like to do this by perusing the company's external, or if possible, the internal websites to build a basic business impact logic for a specific customer. In our example, we're going to use an external website for a regional bank. Here we see a representation of this bank's lines of business. There's banking, investments, insurance, and they also have planning and advice tools. For each line of business, there's a list of services provided: checking, savings, home improvement loans, personal lines of credit for banking, and investments, IRAs, brokerage accounts, education funding, mutual funds, estate planning, etc. And they have insurance products as well, and of course they have their advice and planning tools. So all of these services are provided by underlying infrastructure elements within the bank that will tie to those infrastructure elements further in the demonstration. Let's create the line of business first. We'll take the line of business banking, copy that text. We'll change over to our topology builder console, and we'll create an instance that is a line of business object, and we'll call it, I guess we could use a department as well. It's up to you how you want to define your business units, departments, or lines of business. So let's call this a department. We'll call it banking. And here we'll see the department banking. So for the department banking, we have these sets of services: checking, savings accounts, CDs, cards, etc. So now we'll create these service offerings. First we'll create checking. Let's create the service of checking. To create these service offerings, we can either click on the picture of our world and create an instance or an object in this repository, or we can go to the specific type of class of object that is, in this case, say service offering. Right click on that class of object called service offering and create another service offering. Now, checking was the one that we created. Let's look and see, we want to do savings in the money market now. So let's copy that and paste that. I'll take out that ampersand just to keep from having any challenges there potentially. So savings and money market, and what will be our next one? CDs, certificates of deposit, and so on and so forth, creating the various services, or recreating the various services provided by the bank, right, as business objects in the topology. So I've built out these banking service offerings. I'm going to move on to investments, and then insurance, and of course advice and tools. And I've decided to call these higher level categories lines of business. So we'll see that in my topology builder, I, a few minutes ago, created a banking department, but I want that to be a line of business. So we want to delete any of these elements. It's very easy to do. Just select the one you want to remove and just hit the delete button and it is gone. And now we can create those business impact objects that represent these lines of business. So let's create an instance that's called a line of business, and we'll call this one banking. And our other lines of business are investments, insurance, advice, and tools. So let's create one called investments. Let's find our LOBs here. Here we are. Line of business, investments. Make sure we don't have unnecessary spaces. All right, investments, insurance. Oops. See if I can get that one. What did I do here? Investment. So that's right, insurance. Copy. And last, advice and tools. We'll just call it advice tools. I think that's good enough. There we are. So we have our lines of business created. We have our service offerings for banking created. I'm going to go ahead and create the rest of these service offerings for investments and insurance, and we'll be back and take it from there. Or now that we created all of the service offerings and the lines of business in the topology, now we're going to take those lines of business and link them to these underlying service offerings. And the way we do that is, let's go up to the banking line of business, and we have that as a focal point on our map, and then we'll go down to our list of service offerings and tie them to that line of business. So let's look at our service offering of checking, and we'll right click on that object, add it to the map. Next one will be savings and money market. Just add that. CDs and so forth. Let's see, what do we have next? Cards, loans and financing, and the at work component. Now all of this can be done programmatically. You don't have to use the GUI, but it makes it very easy, and in a matter of minutes really you can construct a pretty nice representation of any business, no matter how large, using these broad categories of business objects. So now if we look at, just finish out here with treasury management, correspondent services, online and mobile, and international. So all of these service offerings are provided by the banking line of business. So what we'll do now is we'll tie the line of business banking to each one of these service offerings. So the way we do that is we select the focal point, in this case the banking line of business, and we'll hold down the control key and click on at work. So now they're both selected, and we'll hit this, what looks like to be a chain with a little plus icon. And here we go. Now we have the line of business banking has a service, or subscribes to a service, at work. And so we'll continue to, for the line of business banking, add the rest of the service offerings that are related to the banking line of business. There we are. So now we have all of the service offerings that are related to that particular line of business tied to its line of business object. We're going to continue to tie these service offerings for the other lines of business so that we'll have these service offerings tied to the lines of business so that the business logic will flow from the service offerings to the line of business for any at-risk indication in the underlying infrastructure. In this focused view, you can see from the physical web server to the application service that we're tracking for availability, response, up, down, slow, degraded, or malfunction conditions with the actual web service itself. And you can see that it's part of this redundancy group, as we had said before, and that serves the service offering online and mobile, which serves the department banking. So there are multiple layers of infrastructure that support this web server that we certainly are tracking. And if you look at the list to the left here of just our inventory in our lab, you can see the wide variety of infrastructure objects that we support, from database servers to file servers, hypervisors, load balancers, storage devices like Isilon and VNX, also voice over IP systems as well, and wireless. So really a very rich and wide solution set for monitoring infrastructure. We are going to switch to a more focused view for our specific example here today. And what I have here is our map view in our Java application. We have a notification list for new notifications that come in. We have a containment view. So for any object that we select, we can walk through all of the various metrics that we're tracking in terms of memory utilization, network adapter utilization, file systems, CPU, processor, memory, as well as disk utilization. So not only are we tracking all of these metrics for servers, but also network devices and storage devices, load balancers, etc. Very rich and deep instrumentation across the infrastructure. So what we're going to do is we're going to log into this web server, drschedule.com, and bring down this web service so that we can see how this missing component affects the infrastructure and the business topology. One of the tools that we offer as a part of our solution is not just client tools such as ping, the ability to RDP or browse into a device from your client, but we offer server-side tools so that you can do these types of activities in a more controlled environment by doing them only through the server. So we allow you to use RDP, SNMP, Telnet, and ping using the server as a proxy. So that's what we'll do right now is we'll use a server-side Windows RDP session, and we're using a third-party tool here called Xming to do that. We're logging into the server. It provides my user ID and password that I had used in our AI4Cloud application, and it gives that to the terminal session. I'm going to log in with a different ID, and I'm going to stop that service. After logging into the web server and taking down the web service, now we'll wait for the polling engine to notice that there are no longer any responses from that web server. Our solution provides TCP port checking, WMI or SNMP based server process monitoring, as well as performance, fault, and availability monitoring for devices and other infrastructure elements. Our solution also provides instantaneous alerting from unsolicited trap messages, the vCenter API, or other real-time alerting facilities from element management tools such as Dell OpenManage, Unisphere, or other EMS tools. We also have bidirectional integrations to other tools such as vRealize Operations, OpenStack, and ticketing systems as well, such as BMC, HP, or ServiceNow. And what we'll see after a couple of polls, our application has noticed that there's a problem with the web service on drschedule.com. If we double-clicked it, we'd see that it has a problem with the TCP connectivity check it's timed out. In its analysis of that TCP check failing, it's determined that it's not the server, it's not the network, it's not congestion, it's not a load balancer, but the problem is actually the HTTP service itself. If I double click the root cause event, we look here, we see that the process may be hung or dead. All checks for the software service are timing out. Our application believes the problem to be that the service itself is down, and the impact is that the TCP connectivity check is failing. So that's the problem condition that we have in the infrastructure, and it's a part of a redundant service. How does that affect the web server redundancy group? Well, that puts the web server redundancy group at risk. And the impact for the web server redundancy group being at risk is that it's impacted several service offerings that support a line of business banking, as well as the loan department. It's also affecting a couple of business processes. And if we look at the map, sure enough, we can see that. Here we see that the loan application can't go any further than the background check. Any activities already in place on the business process supporting mortgage loans or onboarding can continue to function, continue to run credit checks out the BGP service to TRW or whoever is your remote service provider for the credit checks. Our approvals that would be delivered, say, via email to the customers, that's still functioning just fine, as well as the end billing service. But because these two pieces of the business process are affected by the inability to perform a background check, so we can't complete the loan applications, that affects the group onboarding and affects the service offering mortgage loans. If we look at the service offering mortgage loans, and we expand that map node, we can see that it's actually supporting the loan department, which of course makes perfect sense. So here in this example, you can see from the activity in our console that the HTTP service is showing down. A web service could be down for a variety of reasons, a variety of infrastructure causes. It could be down because the load balancer or the hosting server could have a connectivity or performance problem, or it could be because there is a subtending network or storage issue. In our case, the root cause is recognized as being the TCP service itself. You can see here that is root is yes. That is the root cause of the problem. Since the hosted web service is part of a redundancy group, our solution automatically recognizes this as an at-risk condition for the web server and the business functions and customers dependent on it. This allows the automatic notification of affected stakeholders while providing the root cause and impact calculation to the responsible party in real time when the problem occurs. Our solution provides automatic notification of affected stakeholders while providing the root cause and impact calculation to the responsible party in real time when the problem occurs. For example, I'm responsible for web applications, so I received an email about an element I am responsible for. Business owners can optionally receive alert information about the potential risk to their business service, or you can simply use the information to manage your IT infrastructure in the context of the business. For example, if there were some underlying network or storage condition that affected the server, which in turn affected the web application, which in turn affected the business services, I could still be notified that the web service was affected, but the root cause and its impact would be delivered to the responsible storage or network owner. There are a variety of ways for stakeholders to view relevant high-level information. For example, a business owner might simply want a high-level red light, green light dashboard like this one, where the indicators are live and real-time and allow for the drilling in to see more information about that particular problem. In other systems, alerts are colored by infrastructure severity, which has very little, if any, relationship to the effect on the business. In our solution, the operator can see at a glance the root cause of a problem, who is affected, and an automatic numerical calculation for the impact on the infrastructure. Our system is fully automatic in terms of identifying root cause and impact analysis for the infrastructure. Adding a business topology automates the ability to manage and mitigate problems in a fault-tolerant infrastructure in the context of its impact or risk to the business. We hope you've enjoyed our brief tutorial on business impact. We will continue to publish additional tutorials and demos on the advantages and benefits of AI4Cloud's next-generation enterprise management system. Next, we will show you how our solution separates problems from symptoms, how it reduces war room-style scrums, improves SLAs, and reduces management headaches through automation and analysis based on our unique artificial intelligence engine.